because they were installing that vinyl flooring downstairs first, that gave me enough time to concentrate on working up here. So what did I end up doing yesterday? Well, see these door frames? Ooh, that's like smooth as a baby's butt. I'll say that those turned out really nice. Okay, that's what I did yesterday. Just about all day. How many of these door frames did I have? If you've been watching, you probably know by now. Here's one, both sides. This one here, I did 7/8 of it. The only thing I didn't do was the door casing on the inside. Eventually, we're going to be redoing this bathroom, and so I didn't want to concentrate on doing this and trying to tie it into the cabinet and the bathtub and all that, especially if we're going to be tearing all this stuff out, right? But I did want to go at least to this edge because the carpet finishes right there, and I didn't want to have to cut this in to the carpet later, right? Okay, so I did that, both sides of this one. These things take time too, let me tell you. Here's another frame. There's one. Oh, that was hard too because I had to get on the inside where those little shelves were. I had to be like a little monkey in there and get my hand back there and use a small little cutting brush and stuff. This one here, same thing. I just went to this edge, okay, just down to there, so that when their carpets it gets installed, I don't have to get down there and paint that later, right? Okay, both sides of this one. Ooh, I've got excuse me. I'm gonna sneeze here. Did this one here? This one was a little tricky too because they have some coaxial cables here. They fished in from the attic, and I've got a blank plate that I can put on there. I had to move that over, paint that. Had to move this over to get the wall. And I think I did a pretty good job. Other than I still have to figure out. I got to get some paint in there to put on the wall, and I'll be doing that today. But I did all these door frames yesterday, and let me tell you, they just take time because look at all these edges. You can only paint this area in one go. You can only paint that area in one go. You can only paint this area in one go. And the beat goes on. You know, this little edge. You can't just paint that with everything else, because if you do that, it gets a little bit over here. It gets a little bit over there. And if you're not fast enough, the stuff can start drying on you, and then it wants to skip and slide because all of this is semi-gloss paint. It's kind of tricky to install a semi-gloss paint. You got to be really good at it. You know what I mean? So I do this little edge, the very first thing, and then I kind of taper the paint out, blend it, because I know I'm going to paint this later. You see what I'm saying? So I get that little piece concentrated on there first, then I go back and think, okay, what am I going to do? I end up painting this last, this piece, okay, the face, because as I'm painting this next bit from here just to this edge, it's very difficult not to get any paint over on this. You see what I mean? And then I try to finish off this little bit, the edge of this doorstop to there, and I just try to finish that first. Because once you get the paint on there, then you have to blend it in with your paintbrush. After you get it all nice on there, then you take your paintbrush and whoosh, put it all the way on there. Then you got to kind of make sure you don't have some of the wet paint from here edged over to there, because then it's going to create a rich. And you know, then this edge, then that edge, and then you can do this last to finish that off. And then you got to do the trim. Look at all the ridges on the trim. It just takes a long time. And if you noticed, I told you that I was going to cut the paint into the wall last, up to the trim. Because see, when I do this trim, it's very difficult, if you're not a professional painter, to not get any white paint from your trim onto your wall. And I don't really care if I get any on there. See, I even got some up on the wall up above. See. On there, I didn't care about that. I ended up painting the top of that. You look at the top of your door frames and see if they've been painted. They've probably never been painted, or not. You know, or there might be a gap up there. I caulk those, I paint the top to seal it off. I don't want any ants coming up here, any bugs climbing up through the wall, coming out, or having ants, an ant trail on the floor, and then you see it coming up this way, and it found its little home that it now calls home underneath your trim. You know, and you see a line, sure enough, there's a crack above your door frame, and there they all went, and you're like, okay, I don't know what's going on, how am I going to get rid of these ants. And so anyways, I caulk that, I paint the top of that, and I don't care if I get any paint on the wall, because I'm coming back to paint the walls. That's what I did, see, all the way down, and then I got that nice. Look how nice that is. When I cut this wall in to the door casing, it's going to look perfect. It's going to look like a professional did it. It's not going to be, okay, yeah, I tried to cut the wall into here. I tried to cut this white paint into the wall and I didn't get a perfect line. Oh, you know, that was so hard. I'm not a professional painter, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to be a professional painter. Do it this way and cut your wall into your casings, to the baseboard. See, I got that white paint nice and tight on top of the baseboard, and I didn't care if any of that got on the wall, did I? Because I'm gonna cut that wall paint into the top of the base last. Now I'm gonna do that today. See, I did the same thing around the window stool. Now the window stool, see, on this particular instance, you know, it was all I could do was do the white painting yesterday on the door frames. I was done after that, man. Your eyes get squinty after a while. You get a little tired of it. There's just a little bit of a run right there. See that? If I wanted to, I could flake that off, scrape it off, sand it off, whatever, and then touch that paint up. And I might do that. I mean, you check all of your things, and if you see some areas that you missed or something that didn't look like it went on all the way, you can put a little bit more paint on, especially if it's the very next day. You see what I'm saying? But back to this window stool. I call this a window stool and an apron. Okay, that's the apron. This is the window stool. Now, today my plan is. I've got all day, the rest of the day, to paint up here, paint around the door frames, paint around the top of the baseboards. Have that all done, because tomorrow they're probably going to come up here to put the tack strip on the floor, to put the carpet pad down, and they might even bring the carpet up tomorrow. Well, of course I don't want to be up here working while they're doing that, do I? I want to get all of this stuff done. So my quandary, here's the situation. When I get over to this, because this has not been painted yet, my question to you is, do I paint the wall first? Because I'm painting around here, and do I cut this into the wall? Or do I paint this now and let it dry, and then do all my other painting in here on the walls? By the time I get over to here, this will be dry enough for me to paint around, and that's what I'm going to do. That's my answer. Now, some other people will say, just paint the wall and be over with it, and then do this last, and then you can cut this into the wall. Just depends how good you are with cutting into the wall. Are you good enough to get the white paint on just this squirrely trim here and the bottom of this edge of the trim without getting it all on the wall? Look at that small little edge. You really gonna get your paintbrush down there and work on your back and get a light up there and make sure you don't get any on the wall? I don't know about that. That's why I'm gonna paint this first. That way I get my brush up there, and guess what? You know, if I get any of this white paint on the wall, I'm not gonna sweat it at all, am I? I'm not gonna sweat it at all. It's gonna look just like this over here. It's gonna look just like that. Who cares? I no care, because I'm going to go back and paint the wall after I get this done. Okay, so I don't have that much white to do up here. I got this window stool and apron in this room. Okay, there's one place. Let's take a look up here. Here's another piece here. Now, let's talk about that here in a second. Okay, walk in here. I've got just door frames and door casings and baseboards that have already been painted. How nice. Oh, here's another window. Here's another window with the window stool and the apron. Has not been painted yet. I only had enough time to prep this, and I cleaned it, and then I wiped it down. Then I sanded it, lightly sanded it. Then I wiped that down. Then I prepped it. I ended up caulking some nail holes, and they're probably going to show. The caulking you can only do so much. I probably should have used spackle and sanded it when the spackle got dry and stuff. I didn't have any spackle with me, so I did the next thing. The best of the best thing next is just caulk it and forget about it. And there was a big old gouge there. I went to the store and made special care to get some Durham's rock hard water putty, and I was going to fill that in real nicely and let it dry and sand it and scrape it and make it just perfect. Ran out of time, so I put caulking on it and ran my putty knife flat ways and made the contour. Remember that big old gouge? I used caulking on it, two coats. And it, you know, when it gets all done, I'm going to know where it is. But if I told you, hey, I got one place on my window stools that has a place where I caulked it, you probably wouldn't even be able to tell. You wouldn't know. You're going to look at the overall thing. You're going to say, wow, you did a good job on here. I like the way you cut in the ceiling to the wall. How'd you do that? They're not going to know right here that this was caulked. Okay? But in any case, this has to be painted with white paint today, okay? And let's talk about this wall cap, okay? Here's a wall cap with the apron under it, boom, boom. I've not painted that yet. I've cleaned it, I've wiped it down, I sanded it, wiped it down, and it's all ready to be painted. And see, the wall has not been cut in yet. I don't cut it in yet until that gets painted. And see where it is? Right here where the stairwell is. So are you thinking what I'm thinking? Okay, I've got today, and I'm staying here until all this stuff gets done. And so am I painting that today, this morning? Yes, of course I am. Because I don't want to paint that. I don't want to paint this over the carpet. Once they get this carpet down, I don't want to have to get on the carpet and be real careful not to spill anything. Make sure I don't spill the white paint on the wall. Know that I can't cut the wall in yet until I paint that. So if I paint that after the carpet, then I've got to cut this little section in, right in here, over the carpet, over the stairs that have carpet on it, right? So I don't want to do that, do I? And so I'm going to end up painting this today too. Yeah. And the first thing this morning, so see, I'm going to do that one there, this one, and this one. And after you put semi-gloss paint on, it's 60 degrees out. I've got the temperature in here set on 64 or something, 63, whatever. Here's my thermostat. Look how I held it away from the wall to get my painting in. I just put a long screw in that plastic anchor there. It's a little wobbly. And I just kind of did that so that I could paint around it, because I think we're going to be replacing this thermostat. See there, look at that, 66. I think I'm going to replace this thermostat. Even though this thermostat works, there's a big old hole there, so I caulked that to stop the air from coming in through the wall and prevent ants and stuff coming in and out of that hole, so I did that. And the new thermostat might be a little bit smaller than this one. That's why I wanted to pull this off the wall and get it all nicely painted under here and everything, so that the new thermostat, I won't have to cut in around that new thermostat, okay? But so much for that. But like I was saying, for the semi-gloss paint, because it's over 60 degrees in here, once you put this semi-gloss paint on, it's not going to take that long to dry, to skin over. Light enough so that it's dry to the touch. It's not going to be 100% cured, but it's going to be dry enough to the touch to where then I can cut in the wall down next to it. And if I barely get some on here, I could maybe wipe it off with a damp rag, or I could leave it and then touch it up on another day after the wall paint dries, and then touch it up with the white paint. So I can always do that, okay? But I like to, you know, so in my mind, it's really not gonna take that long for these to dry. Okay, maybe after I get them done, maybe 45 minutes to an hour or so. And so see, it's gonna be, if I do those 3 now, do you really think in a million years that I'm gonna be ready to paint around those walls until I get all this baseboard done? You really think I can get all these walls cut into the baseboard in an hour? Heck no. I'm gonna be here all day painting all of these walls, and cutting in, however long it takes, I'm here. So I just have to be real careful and mindful that, okay, I just can't, plain and simple, I just can't come in here. I could cut in around this, but I don't even want to get around this. I don't even want to have to be close to, I'll cut in and stop over here. I'll do the top of this and wait and know that that's wet. And now you drip paint on it, or you put your hip up against it, you put your hand on it, you think, oh crap, I forgot it was wet. I'm just gonna stay away from this whole entire thing for a few hours and be mindful, knowing that, hey, I got plenty of areas to paint, don't I? Got all that to cut in. I've got all this at the bottom of the baseboard to cut in down here. Boom, 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 boom. And I've got to cut in. I got to cut in this down to the top of this. I painted this the other day, the nice trim down there. Now I can cut that in. Boom, all the way down, all the way down. I can do all that. All this stuff here still needs to be cut in. This is all ready, but everything else still has to be cut in. That's another thing I have to do too. Pull this up today and slide these two back into this hole. I've got this all cut in. This was a different color or type of paint. This is the same color as this, but I opted for semi-gloss walls in here because it's for the washer and dryer. Out here is eggshell finish. Okay, so I've already cut this in, ready for the washer and dryer. Worst case scenario, hey, if I don't get time to put the washer and dryer in, no sweat. I can do that first thing in the morning while they're installing the tack strip, while they're cutting the tack strip, nailing it down, cutting the carpet pad, putting that down. That gives me plenty of time to monkey around, getting these back in here. Worst case scenario, I'll just slide these over so I have enough room to cut in this baseboard and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I got lots of cut in. I'm going to be the cut in meister after today, when today is over. And let me show you the cutting brushes I'm going to use. And I think, I already know which one I'm going to use, but there's 2 different ones. Look at this little one. See this? This is the one I'm going to use, right here. And I actually use this one. Let me show you the other one I have. Here's, this is the one I usually cut in. I've cut in all my ceilings with that. Okay, because it's got the long handle too. Sometimes, like that high stuff up there, I had to get up on the ladder and tippy toe and hold this out about like that to get to it. If this was a small paintbrush, I couldn't have gotten the tips. And then down here, I was kneeling on top of this, on top of some shelving, so I didn't break through the sheetrock. And reaching up there as high as I could, tweaking my back, holding this about like that, so I could cut that in way up there. I think I did a halfway decent job up there. And so this one comes in really handy. I don't think I'm going to use that today. I think I'm going to use this one. I think I got maybe a little bit more control with this one to get into the inside corners, but I've done it with this one before. It's getting a little old. It's getting a little tired. It's a little bit fatter total than this one when this one's wet. Okay, and so I think I'm going to use this one. I'm just going to take my time and go for it. And that's what I used. That's what I used for this. to cut in and stuff. And on the wide stuff, you know, it's kind of wide there. So when you put it on, if you flatten it out, like here, let me try to do this. Here, I'll do it over here. Okay. If you're painting like this, you don't have to paint. Get it on there and then flatten it out. See how it wings out at the top? I could do pretty much the whole jam that way, couldn't I? This whole edge from here to here. And then after I get the paint on, then I can flatten it out both ways, see? And then I go at the end, I go this way. You know, from the top down and get it. Just do it ever so lightly, and then everything kind of lines up. This thing actually works pretty good. When I did it on the side, I put it in the middle, flatten it out. It won't flatten out the whole thing, but this takes a lot of paint. So I'll paint it on there, and then I can hit it on the same angle this way, same angle over here, and then I do a once over on the whole thing like that. And then this contours right into the grooves in the nooks and crannies. And then overall, I'll go down. I'll show you how to paint a door frame, you know, downstairs when I get down there. Okay, but that's what I'm going to use for that. And I'm not quite sure on the face of these on the window stools. I'm toying with the idea. See, I could probably, I'll just paint it with my 2.5 inch. But see, you know, there's lots here that I'm going to have to blend in. And if you're really good at semi-gloss, you can do it. But if you're not that good, you can still get it on as best you can this way. And if you see lines, then you could take a mini roller at the end. After you get it, all the paint on, you've already got it nicely cut in. You got to cut in nicely all the way around everything, and you've got paint up here, and you don't have it on the same evenness, and it's looking a little streaky. What could you do for the face? Well, you could take a mini roller. With a little 4-inch mini roller or a 6-inch. Look where I stacked all my stuff because I had to get it. Remember I had it all stacked out here in the middle of the room. I just brought it all in here, strategically stacked it. Here's all my empty buckets over there. Here's paint that I've been using. Here's my main paint right there, and I even filled this up with all kinds of stuff. See, well, I got my 4-inch little paint roller here, and I've got some nice 4-inch rollers, and I could even do it with a 6-inch if I wanted. I got a nice 6-inch in there too, and then see a 6-inch mini roller, and I could just take my paint, put it in the little paint tray with the mini roller, boom, 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 and over the face of it, do the face at the very last. You know what I mean? And get it as close to the edge without hitting or anything. And at least the main body of this will be nice. It'll bring up its own little textured type of look, because I don't care what kind of roller cover you use. It's going to be different than your paintbrush strokes. Okay? And I might end up doing that for the top of that because I was thinking about this. I think that's what I want to do. To this top surface here, just to get it looking nice here. And see, there's another one down. There's another one down at the bottom of the stairs, and I'm thinking about doing that today too, but maybe later on during the day after they get done downstairs, so I'm not in their way and stuff. And then have enough time at the end of the day to paint underneath it. You know, at least where the carpet is. Boom, boom. At the end, boom, boom. So that they don't have to have any of that stuff where the carpet is. So I don't have to paint anything over the carpet if I don't have to. Worst case scenario. So if I have to, I do. And so I'm just trying to think strategically today about all this stuff. So with that mini roller, you can just get it on nicer, especially the areas where you're gonna see more so than others. See, this one you're gonna see all the time. That one there, you're gonna see all the time. The ones where the window stools are, usually you have a mini blind here or something. Well, she's thinking about putting shutters, and the shutters, you know, those plantation shutters, it actually has a trim that goes on the outside here. So there's shutters right here, right? When it comes down, the shutter, the whole thing basically covers this up. You've got a trim piece on the bottom. So most of this window stool is not gonna show. The only bit that's gonna show is like there. Do you see what I'm saying? And the same thing in the back. If she puts the plantation shutter on this one, okay, same type of deal. You got a bottom track that's yay wide. I don't know how wide it is, but there's something down here in the bottom track, and it faces on the outside of here because the trim comes out a couple inches onto your wall all the way around. It's going to look nice when it's up. We'll show you that later after it gets installed. So again, you're only going to see it a little bit here, and then if the trim base piece is yay wide, then you're going to see this little bit. You're going to see that little bit and that little bit of the window stool. So that kind of defeats my purpose of wanting to run my my mini roller on these window stools, right? Because you're not really going to see but this much later. And so what I'm going to do now that I'm talking about it, thinking about it, on the window stools, for the windows, I'm going to use just my paintbrush, and I'm going to get it on there. I'm going to do a really good job anyways. Okay, I'm going to use that for the two windows. But when I do these, I'll get the paint on with my 2.5 inch paintbrush, just the same paintbrush that I'm going to use for the window stools. But after I get it all done, then I'm going to have the mini roller with not a whole lot of paint on the mini roller. Okay, I'm just going to use the mini roller over the top surface of this at the end and get it up there as close as I can so that this looks all nice and even, Steven. Okay, and I'll do that. I'll do that for this, the mini roller for this, and the mini roller for that. That's going to look sweet when it gets done. Trust me. Okay, so that's what I'll do with that. And here's one more thing I got to paint. Jeez, dabbity nabbit. This little cabinet right in here. I really don't want to do this over the carpet later, but I got a little bit of work in here too. This I haven't even touched yet. This was the paint that was in here from before, the tannish color, and they just used flat paint. I don't know why they did that, but they did. And so I'm going to use the eggshell paint here, the eggshell finish. It's a double click eggshell is the finish. It's a little toned down from semi-gloss. Okay, so I'm going to use that through this whole thing. So I need to do that today too, and I think maybe I should do that one of the first things to get that out of the way. I can get that out of the way after I can either do that first and then do the white window stools after that, and then come back. I think maybe I'll do it that way because I'm going to use the eggshell finish on all of these. Then when all of this stuff is dry, then I'm going to do just the top of each one of these. I'm going to use this semi-gloss because I have it, and because it'll just give this a nice finished surface on the top of there. Okay, and we got a little pantry down in the kitchen. I'm going to end up doing the same thing. It's the same type of thing like that, just to give it a little bit more durability, more washability, and more. It'll just last longer. Okay. And so I've got that to do today too. I already spent another previous day doing all the cut in way up high. I did all the cut in and all the inside corners. I wanted to do everything on down to where I only had to worry about cut in on the walls above the doors where I finished off the doors yesterday. And then the baseboards and around the door frames, see? Okay, so there's my day, and I'm starting to realize it's gonna be a long day. It's gonna be a long day. I don't care how fast you can paint, it just takes time, because you got to take your time to a certain extent around the door casings, around the edges of the door casings, around the tops of your baseboards. Do a good job, and if you've never done it before, you can do it. Just do some practice. Go into a closet and try your hand in the closet first to give yourself a little bit of practice. And then I'll probably end up starting in this closet, and until you get the hang of which direction you want to go. Is it best for you to go from left to right or from right to left? There's a difference for some people. It's easier than other from right to left. But in my case, I have a feeling I'm going to be better starting from left to right, so I can look on the left. But we'll just see. We'll just see how it works, and maybe I'll get tired after a while and then say, no, I'm going to do from right to left next time. And no matter what, if you're better from left to right, guess what? When you start from the left, when you get over so far, you're going to have to finish this piece of base from right to left, no ifs, ands, or buts. So you got to get used to backhanding your paintbrush, forehanding your paintbrush, and tweaking your head and figuring out how am I going to get this. VideoJoe's told me he's using that little paintbrush. How am I going to use this paintbrush in order to not get any in here, especially when you got an inside corner, when you got a little bit from the left, when you got a little bit from the right to go over here before you do the rest of it? How am I going to do that? Figure it out. You just, there's ways to do it, and I believe today, my best friend is going to be this little 2-inch hand brush right here with the angled, see how it's angled like that? You don't want, I don't want flat, straight across. I want it angled, okay? It's easier to use the very tip of your angle on the inside corners and to go from top down to grab that little corner right there where the two intersect. See how this paintbrush angles? That's the kind you want for cut-in. See how this angles? Look at that. It's the same angle. Okay? Straight across would be about right there. It's hard to give you an idea. Maybe you can see it better there. See how it angles like that? And that's what you want to use, and that's what I'm going to use for most of this. And check it out. Most of it, I'm going to use this little thing right here. It's just a takeout little container for food, and I'm going to use that. I'm just going to pour a little bit in there. There's my paint tray for most of the day. I can just slide it along the floor. How hard is that? I use this one here for ceilings and up on walls when I'm way up high on a ladder. I use that and hold it like this. See, like that, and then dip and go there. But on the floor, I don't need that, and plus it's a little unstable. If you bump it just right, you could tip it over. So and it's deeper. You got to dip your brush in there without getting it all on the edges, way up high. I don't like to do that. And so I just put a little bit in the bottom there. Ka-doink, ka-doink. Wipe it off. Ka-doink. You don't have to get but this much paint on there. Okay? If you get paint all the way up to the top here, and you're continually having it drip here, and this is hard to clean out, you're painting, your technique is wrong. You pretty much only want to use from here to about there as you're going back and forth. You don't have to have a full thing of paint and dip it all the way down in there. If I use this, I don't like to fill it up, but more than inch and a half at a time. I don't want to fill that up, you know, 2.5, 3 inches. Then I've got a hard time gauging how far to dip this in without oops, you know, and or sliding it down here or whatever. You know, so there's a time to use this, there's a time to use that. There's a time to use it right out of the 1 gallon paint can, but I very seldom will work out of a gallon can. I'd much prefer using just a paint tray with the throwaways. I can use my mini roller in there. I can use this to slide along and, you know, to paint all my base. If I didn't have this throwaway container, goodbye. I just use my paint tray. Okay? Here's another throwaway container that I ended up using. This one I used for the semi-gloss paint. Okay? And then after I didn't use that, I just let it dry. I don't wash that out, just let it dry. Now I can put more paint in there. I can put whatever in there as long as that's 100% dry over a couple days. I can put a different color in there. If you put a different color in this the very next day, it could bleed through there. You might not want to do that. But if it was the same color, and if I was using this the very next day with semi-gloss the same color, I could use it for the next day. Just don't swish it too hard at the bottom and rummy up the bottom stuff, because that's what happened with this one day. I used this for a second day, and this whole bottom thing after a while started sliding around. But usually I just dip a little bit and then run it off the side anyway, so I never get to the bottom. Okay? And so if I have 2 or 3 colors to work with, now I've got 2 or 3 different options to work with during the same day, don't I? Okay? All right, enough talking. It's time to get busy. Now here's a quick tip for you. Have your sponge ready, have your water ready, and as you're cutting in your wall down to the baseboard, your wall up to the door casings, if you happen to tag your door casing a little bit with some paint, or on an inside corner of the baseboard, or way down in there, let's say you have a hard time getting that little piece in there of the wall without getting any on the white, just make sure you have a damp sponge handy and wipe it off the baseboard. The baseboard and the door jambs are already nicely, freshly painted, but they've been cured for a couple of days, and you can wipe stuff off of there. You don't have to worry about, oh shoot, get a rag, try to smear it on there and it doesn't get it all, and you think now you've got to touch up the white door casings or the white baseboard. You know, just have your water ready and have a sponge and you're good to go.